Welcome, Bruchim Aba'im. I am Rabbi Paul, your virtual rabbi, and you have found Beit Virtuali. Not long ago, as I was flipping through my Facebook feed, which I probably should do significantly less than I actually do, I found part of the discussion in the collective zeitgeist about one issue or another, one of the many tribal issues that are out there, and it had the definition of science. And the definition that it had was related to the body of collected knowledge. Now, that's true, and I didn't comment on it because I didn't want to start the fight, but there's a problem with that. And the problem is that's the second definition of science. The first definition of science is the iterative process of it, that science is something that we come to after we ask questions, set hypotheses, test those, try to falsify them, not assume we're right, but actually assume that we're wrong in some way, falsify it, and then over the course of time, we gather that body of knowledge, which is always subject to change when new information comes about. And I think that a lot of our stress in the last, couple, if not more than a couple of years, for many of us has been based on this misunderstanding that once there's something there that is the received wisdom of the age through some sort of scientific process, then that will remain static, and that might change as well, and that's incredibly frustrating. And of course, we saw that over the course of the pandemic. And well, the point that I actually really want to make is that for the next little bit of time in Beit Virtuali, I want to spend a little bit of time trying to look at Judaism as an iterative process as opposed to a body of collected wisdom, which might sound incredibly, non-Jewish or non-religious, but I actually think it's one of the most Jewish things that we can do. Joel Roth, in his book, The Halakhic Process, makes the point that when we talk about halakha, Jewish law, we tend to mean, what's the halakha? What's the law regarding that particular thing? What we're asking for is, in the great collected wisdom of Judaism, when we have to ask the question on how we build a sukkah, or how we fast on Yom Kippur, or how we have a Passover Seder, we're looking for the answer that is the answer from that collected body of wisdom. And the reality is, number one, there's usually multiple answers. Hopefully that's already been seen from some of my videos. There are multiple possibilities. There's a dialogue out there. There's thousands of years of evolution, and part of the joy of Judaism, part of what makes Judaism Judaism, is that we collect the minority answers. We can discuss why at some other point. But the other definition that he points out is not just the collected body of wisdom, but the process by which we get there. And both are equally important. And so if Judaism itself has both of these elements, that it is a body of collected positive baggage and history and narrative, and on the other hand, it is the evolution that got us to that. It is the process by which we have taken the things that have worked and have kept us alive, and discarded the things that haven't. And if you think that that's a reform thing, I'll finish off this video with a couple minor points. But here's how I'm going to deal with that. We've got Sukkot about to start in a few days. Somewhere in the middle of Sukkot, I'm going to have a video that posts Sukkot as an iterative process. What does that really look like? It's very simply this. When we look at Judaism as a collected body of wisdom, then each year we're repeating the cycle of enacting that body of wisdom. We're going through the stage directions, and that's what the Sidurim, our prayer books, and Maksurim, our prayer books for the High Holy Days, and the Shalosh Regalim, the pilgrimage festivals, become, is a script in a play, and we continue acting the same play over and over again, which in and of itself is not a bad thing, because within that play we can learn so much, and there's so much wisdom. But if we look at that from the top, then we see a circle. We start here at Rosh Hashanah, and when we come around, we're at Rosh Hashanah again, and repeating the story over and over again because, it's wisdom. It's received wisdom. But if you flip that on its side, and we turn this to an iterative process, meaning there's a question that every aspect of Judaism demands of us, at least one question that every process of Judaism demands of us. And then once we have honestly and with integrity and intentionality dealt with that question, then there are actions that we need to take in order to, repair ourselves, repair the world, to make a tikkun, litakein, to heal something. Now we're into Judaism. So the question is, with everything that we do, what's the basis of our iterative process? What questions should we have been asking during Yom Kippur, Rosh Hashanah, leading up to that? What questions can we ask in Sukkot and each of the holidays coming up, whether major or minor, whether a day of rest or not a day of rest? And then what can we take from that? And as soon as we do that, instead of having a circle, we flip the circle on its side. And when we come around to Rosh Hashanah again, then all of a sudden it's elevated. And so this shape of holiness is an upward spiral. Or if we are ignoring these questions, not living this out, seeing Judaism as nothing more than, well, a blind series of rituals that have no intrinsic meaning to them, then it could even be a spiral down. So I invite you to join me on this journey as we attempt to look at Judaism slightly more practically. I feel that it's where Beit Virtuali needs to go for the next little bit of time. And of course, since Passover isn't tomorrow, some of these videos are going to be spread out over the course of the year. So I'll refer back to this video over and over again. In the meantime, thank you for being a part of Beit Virtuali. Thank you for joining us. If you would like to become a member, please click on the link down below onto Patreon. Our first adult education is going to start getting announced in the next week or so. It will also be dealing with these practical aspects. In this case, how can we practically understand the Sephirot in Kabbalah? And if that sounds interesting to you, you need to be a Patreon in order to access our adult education. So come and join us. In the meantime, you do have an everyday job to do. That's be aware of who you actually are. Live your own life, and in the process of living that life, lift someone else up. Tear no one down. And in the process of lifting someone up, then all of us are lifted up. So take care. We'll see you next time. Thank you for being part of Beit Virtuali.
אהבת עולם את ישראל עמך אהבת אהבת עולם בית ישראל עמך תורה ומצוות חוקים משפטים אותנו לימדת תורה ומצוות חוקים